They say I have demons to face. Psychology says I have data to read. When I get passionate, they call it crazy, clingy, not love. But clinically, that's my attachment system activating my brain's alarm that says, this bond matters. Some of us protest by pursuing, calling, explaining, raising our voice. Some protest by withdrawing, going silent, leaving, getting busy. Different strategy, same motive. Protect the connection. This isn't a demon, it's neurobiology. When I feel threatened, my body flips into sympathetic gear. Fight hard up, breathe short, thoughts racing. If that fails, I can drop into dorsal, shut down, numb, disconnected. My goal is to return to ventral, calm, curious, connected. That's not possession. That's a nervous system doing its job. They say passion isn't love, but psychology says emotion, information. Love without emotion is performance. Emotion without skills is signal without steering. Here's the truth. I'm not too much. I'm unresolved in places, like everyone. My intensity is the volume knob for my needs. Safety, clarity, closeness, truth. My love language is communication, not because I'm needy, but because responsiveness is the oxygen of bonding. What looks like demons is often protectors doing overtime. The controller tries to prevent hurt. The perfectionist chases safety through doing it right. The pursuer tries to fix distance with effort. The shutdowner tries to fix overwhelm with escape. Behind every protector is a younger part asking, am I safe? Am I chosen? So no, I'm not ashamed of my passion. I'm learning to aim it. I'll name my state before it names me. I'm activated, not angry. I'm seeking closeness, not control. I won't repair, not a win. I'll swap reaction for ritual. 1, regulate my body. 2, name my need. 3, ask cleanly. And if you label me demonic for feeling deeply, I'll hear that as your nervous system talking. I won't fight your walls and I won't abandon myself, because real love is 2 regulated nervous systems telling each other the truth and staying long enough to repair. I'm not fighting demons, I'm training skills. I'm not addicted to you, I'm committed to clarity. I'm not broken, I'm building a bigger window of tolerance so my passion carries wisdom, not wreckage. Call it demons if you need a villain. I'll call it what it is. Data, attachment, nervous system, needs, skills, and choice. That's not a curse, that's a map. And I'm walking it 1 ground, 1 boundary, 1 repair at a time. Real life playbook. Evidence.
Every relationship is a dance. Not just between 2 people, but between 2 histories, 2 fears, 2 hearts that long for love. And in this dance, there are patterns. Patterns called attachment styles. The avoidant says, I need space. If I get too close, I'll lose myself. The anxious says, I need closeness. If you pull away, I'll lose everything. And the secure says, I can love without fear. I can be close and still be free. But here's the truth. When avoidance and anxiety meet, a storm brews. One pulls away to feel safe. The other chases harder to feel loved. One says, you're too much. The other cries, you're not enough. And suddenly old wounds come alive. The avoidant feels trapped. The anxious feels abandoned. Both are re-triggered into the same painful cycle. A cycle of silence and pursuit, retreat and demand. The more one runs, the more the other clings. The more one clings, the more the other runs, until the relationship feels less like love and more like survival. But listen, attachment is not destiny, it's a pattern, and patterns can be rewritten. Stability is possible, security is possible, but it doesn't happen by accident. It happens when the avoidant learns that closeness is not suffocation. It happens when the anxious learns that distance is not abandonment. It happens when both decide that love doesn't have to be a battlefield of triggers. So I ask you this: when you're triggered, are you reacting to the person in front of you, or are you reacting to the ghosts of your past? Because until you see the difference, you will keep punishing the present for the pain of yesterday. If you are anxious, practice stillness. You are already worthy of love. If you are avoidant, practice leaning, and closeness will not erase who you are. And if you are secure, be the anchor, not the rescuer. Stability isn't saving someone, it's showing them balance. Love is not about avoiding the cycle. Love is about holding each other steady when the cycle begins. When avoidance pulls away and anxiety pulls close, security steps in and says, we don't have to keep doing this. Let's stand still together. Let's break the pattern. Because real love isn't the absence of triggers. Real love is choosing every single day not to let those triggers control the story.
You've spent much of your life chasing reassurance, not because you're weak, but because your nervous system was trained to believe love might not be safe. That's what anxious attachment is. It's the brain on constant alert, scanning for signs that the person you love is slipping away. Psychology calls this hyperactivation. When fear of abandonment fuels intensity, when passion turns into panic. And here's the sting: this isn't just about them, it's about you. Because every time you feel that fear and react without grounding yourself, you hand over your power. You let the survival strategies of your past dictate the reality of your present. You let ghosts of old relationships speak louder than the person in front of you. But you're not that child anymore. You're not that teenager desperate for validation. You are an adult with the power to rewire. New Russians proves it. Your brain is plastic, moldable. The same patterns that once made you chase can now make you stand firm. The same intensity that made you beg for love can be transformed into a force that commands respect. Here's the hard truth: attachment wounds don't vanish just because someone loves you right. Healing doesn't come from them answering every call, every text, every silence. Healing comes when you stop outsourcing your worth, when you finally look in the mirror and say, even if no one shows up, I'm still here, I'm still enough, I still matter. You wanna love hard? Good, love hard. But stop abandoning yourself in the process. Every time you fight for someone else while ignoring your own voice, you reinforce the very cycle you tried to escape. You become addicted to the chase, to the highs and lows of anxiety disguised as passion. That's not love, that's survival mode. And survival mode will never give you peace. It will only burn you out. So the challenge is this: can you sit in silence without collapsing? Can you let someone walk away without turning it into proof that you weren't enough? Can you transform your fire from frantic grasping into steady light? Because that's what secure attachment looks like. Not coldness, not distance, but stability, and stability is freedom.
When you get there, and you will, you'll realize something powerful. The people who once said you were too much weren't wrong. You are too much for the wrong ones, but for the right ones, for the ones who value consistency as much as intensity. You will not be too much, you will be everything. So stop running from your anxious attachment, own it, study it, rewrite it. Because psychology is clear, patterns can be broken, nervous systems can be healed, and love can be redefined. Your scars aren't your shackles, they're your training ground. And once you stop begging for love and start embodying it, you'll finally see you were never chasing them. You were chasing yourself.
Before we step deeper, let's talk about something that quietly shapes how we love, fight, and hold on. Anxious attachment. At its core, anxious attachment is the fear of abandonment mixed with the deep craving for closeness. It's when your heart wants connection so badly that the mind starts playing tricks, overthinking, replaying arguments, questioning your worth when someone pulls away. It's not weakness. It's a response. It's the echo of past experiences, the nervous system saying, "Don't leave me again." With anxious attachment, arguments don't feel like small disagreements, they feel like earthquakes. Because the fear underneath whispers, if they walk away this time, maybe they won't come back. That's why we cling harder, love louder, or sometimes even push away just to see if they'll return. But here's the truth, anxious attachment isn't who you are. It's a survival strategy your heart built to protect itself. And the fact that you feel deeply doesn't make you broken, it makes you human. The journey is learning to pause, to recognize the fear for what it is, and to remind yourself, I am worthy of love that stays, even when my mind is screaming otherwise. So as you hear these words, don't just think of anxious attachment as a flaw. Think of it as a sign of how much you care, how much you value connection. And remember, awareness is the first step toward rewriting the story.
Feels like it's not just theory in a textbook. It's that voice in your head during an argument saying, "Let her go, she doesn't love you." And then 2 seconds later, another voice screaming, "No, I need her, I can't lose her." That's the cycle: fight and cling, pull and push. It's not love that makes it spin like that.
It's fear. Psychology calls this the pursue-withdraw cycle. The moment you argue, your brain floods with panic. I'm losing her, she's slipping away. And that panic doesn't let you think clearly. It makes you misinterpret her silence as punishment, her space as abandonment. You've said it yourself, she doesn't love me, she just cares. That's the anxious attachment lens twist in reality. Caring feels too light, so your brain translates it as rejection. But here's the raw truth: in those fights, you weren't just fighting her, you were fighting your history. Every moment someone left you, every silence you didn't understand, every wound you never healed, it all came rushing into that one argument. She wasn't just her anymore, she became the weight of everyone who ever made you feel not enough. That's why it stung so hard. That's why you kept needing to claim her, to pull her back, to demand proof. Because your nervous system doesn't care if it's her or someone from years ago. It only knows the fear of being left. And yet look deeper. She didn't walk away because you were unworthy. She walked because sometimes your fire burned too hot. Because when passion gets tangled with fear, it feels like control instead of connection. And here's the paradox: the more you push, the more she needed space. The more you needed words, the more she went quiet. That's the anxious avoidant trap. One person reaching, the other retreating. Not because they don't care, but because they're drowning in different ways. So where do you go from here? It's not about begging her to stay. It's not about proving you're enough through arguments. It's about proving to yourself that even in silence, you don't crumble. That even when she pulls back, you don't abandon yourself. Because the truth is, love isn't found in the battle of who holds tighter. Love is found in the stillness of I can let go and still be me. Your experience proves this. You're not broken, you're not unlovable. You're just learning how to separate the person in front of you from the ghost behind you. And the day you master that, the day you no longer hear she doesn't love you in every argument, is the day you'll finally love without fear. Because she may care, she may not love, she may come back, she may not. But what matters most is this: you're still here. And that's enough.
The reason I'm doing this is because I've come to realize I have an anxious attachment style, and with that style I've hurt people I care about. I pushed them away when, deep down, what I really wanted was closeness. I don't want to keep repeating that I want to understand myself more deeply, learn healthier ways to connect, and never let this pattern hurt someone I love again. Maybe you're here because you feel the same way. Maybe you've noticed those same patterns in yourself, or maybe it's not you. Maybe it's your partner, your best friend, or even a family member who struggles with this. Whoever you are, if you've ever felt the tug of war between craving love and fearing abandonment, this journey might speak to you too. I'm not here as an expert. I'm here as someone learning, someone willing to dig deep, and someone who refuses to stay stuck in old cycles. If you want to walk this path with me, let's learn together how to heal, to grow, and to love in ways that bring peace instead of fear. pain has a strange way of becoming home. When you've lived with anxious attachment long enough, pain isn't just something you experience. It becomes something you expect. The silence after an argument feels louder than it should. The waiting for a text back feels heavier than it should. And deep down, part of you starts to believe this is what love feels like. Uncertainty, ache, chasing, fearing. The truth is, pain becomes familiar, and the human brain has this survival instinct. It clings to what it knows, even if what it knows is killing it slowly. That's why anxious attachment is so powerful. You want closeness, you crave connection. But when love shows up, you get suspicious. When someone steps away, you panic. And when you panic, you do the very thing you swore you wouldn't. You push them further away. Here's the hardest part. We don't just fear losing people. We fear losing the pain. Because if pain is all you've ever known and loved, then peace feels foreign. Security feels uncomfortable. You almost don't trust it. And so the cycle continues. Hurt, cling, push, regret. But listen closely. Pain is not proof of love. Pain is not intimacy. Pain is just the echo of old wounds replaying themselves in new relationships. And the moment you can see that, the moment you can admit that love is supposed to feel safe, not frantic, that's when the cycle starts to break. The work isn't easy. It means sitting with silence and not assuming abandonment. It means learning to self-soothe instead of self-sabotage. It means telling yourself, the storm inside me is not the truth, it's just the trigger. Yes, pain is familiar, but healing can become familiar too. Stability can become your new normal. And love, the real kind, will never require you to constantly bleed just to prove it exists. I used to tell myself, it's not me, it's her. It's them, I didn't do anything wrong. But deep down, I knew that was armor. That wasn't strength, that was my anxious attachment, putting on a mask and pretending it didn't hurt. See, when you have an anxious attachment style, your nervous system goes into overdrive, heart racing, thoughts spiraling. You start telling yourself stories just to survive the pain, and the quickest story to grab is blame. It's her fault. It's their issue, I'm fine. But psychology teaches us this. Blame is just avoidance in disguise. It's not silence, it's not withdrawal, it's distance dressed up as pride. It shields you from the raw wound of maybe I'm not enough. For a moment it feels like relief, but then the cycle starts again. You push them away, they pull back further, and suddenly you've created the very thing you feared. Abandonment. I've lived that loop. She doesn't text back fast enough, my brain shouts she doesn't care. An argument gets heated, I tell myself she's the one who always runs. But underneath the anger was never power. Underneath was a scared voice screaming, please don't leave me. And that's where healing begins. When you stop running from that truth, when you admit, yes, I'm triggered, yes, I'm scared, but I can still choose how I respond. That's what secure love is, not perfect people.
but people who can own their part without carrying all the blame. People who can say, I felt hurt when this happened, but I'm still here. I'm not running. Avoidance says it's not me. Healing says it's both of us. And I'll start with my 10%. So today I drop the armor. I don't need to be right, I don't need to win the argument. I need to build something that lasts. And that's not built on blame, it's built on responsibility. It's built on regulation, it's built on repair. That's how love grows. That's how trust is built. That's how the cycle breaks.
My friends say, this relationship isn't good for you. They see me stressed, they see the arguments, they see the restless energy I carry when I'm attached. From the outside it looks simple, leave and you'll be happier single. And they're half right, because when I'm single, life does feel calm. No one to disappoint, no one to fight with, no one to walk away. I control my world. My nervous system is quiet, I'm stable, I'm content, but that calm is not healing, it's just silence and safety without growth. The moment I step into a relationship, at the end it shifts. Suddenly everything I bury comes alive. Old wounds wake up, my mind races, my chest tightens. That little voice inside me, the one that once felt abandoned, ignored, not enough, it starts screaming again. And every pause in the text, every shift in tone, every argument feels like rejection all over. That's when my defense shows up. I tell myself, it's not me, it's her. She's the one running, she's the one avoiding. And for a moment I feel stronger. For a moment I feel like I've escaped the shame of asking, what if it really is me? But here's the truth, that line, it's not me, is not strength, it's avoidance in disguise. It's armor my anxious attachment puts on, so I don't have to feel the raw pain of unworthiness. It protects me for a minute, but it costs me connection. Because the moment I shift all the blame outward, I block myself from repair. And this is why the cycle never breaks. My friends tell me the partner is the problem. I tell myself I'm not the problem. And so the deeper truth stays untouched, that it's my attachment wounds being activated, not just their behavior causing me pain. Single me looks happy because I'm unchallenged. Relationship me looks unhappy because I'm exposed. Single me is safe. Relationship me is tested. And that's the dynamic no one talks about. Being single hides the wound. Being in love exposes it. One gives me calm, the other gives me growth. And if I always run when things get hard, I'll never grow. I'll get relief, but I won't get healing. Because the wound will just wait for the next relationship to awaken it again. Avoidance says, it's not me, it's them. Healing says, it's both of us. And I'll start with my part. So this is the journey I'm on, not to silence my fears, not to pretend I'm perfect, but to face the storm when it rises, to breathe through it and to choose connection over blame. That means I own my triggers. That means I regulate before I retaliate. That means I repair before I retreat. Because love doesn't grow on blame. Love grows on responsibility. Love grows on patience. Love grows on repair. So no, this relationship isn't destroying me. It's revealing me. It's showing me the parts I still need to heal. And for the first time, I'm ready to stop running from that truth. I finally understand being single kept me safe. But being in love is what teaches me how to grow, and growth, even messy, painful, uncomfortable growth, is where freedom lives. That's my journey. That's my healing. That's how I break the cycle.
You ever wonder where it all started? For me, I trace it back through the chapters of my life. Maybe it was when my mother passed away when I was 17. Losing her was like losing the ground beneath me. It taught me early that love can vanish in an instant. That no matter how much you hold on, the people you need most can be taken away. Or maybe it was the years I thought my grandmother hated me. Years of feeling like nothing I did was enough to be seen, to be loved the way I hoped. When you're young, you don't understand that sometimes adults carry their own pain. You just think, it must be me, I must not be lovable. Then came the military, I joined looking for belonging, for structure, for a family. But when I failed, I branded myself as not enough. I wore shame like a uniform no one else could see. Every rejection since then only echoed that voice, you'll never measure up. And then, reaching out to my biological father, only to realize he was never really a father at all. No matter how much I wanted him to be, he wasn't there, he never was. And he never will be. That kind of wound cuts deep. It tells you love has to be chased, begged for, fought for. It makes you believe presence is something you have to earn. So yeah, maybe that's where my anxious attachment began. Maybe it wasn't one single moment, but all of them woven together. Each moment whispering the same lie. You're not safe, you're not enough, love will leave. And here's the thing. I didn't just go through it, I lived with it. For 17 years, I carried anxious attachment like it was my shadow. Every relationship, every argument, every fear of being left behind was me still living in the echoes of those moments. But here's the truth I'm learning. Those moments shaped me, but they don't have to define me. The wounds explain why I love the way I love, why I fear the way I fear. But they don't have to control the way I grow. I can choose to stop chasing love as if it's something I have to earn. I can choose to see myself as enough even when others can't. And I can choose to believe that love doesn't have to be a battlefield. It can be a place of rest. Because at the end of the day, my past may have built the walls around me, but only I have the power to tear them down.
For years, I kept asking myself the same question. What's wrong with me? Why can't I keep a relationship? Every time something fell apart, I pointed the finger outward, it's them. They didn't understand me, they didn't love me right. they weren't loyal. And for a while, that story made me feel safe. It made me feel like I wasn't the broken one. But the truth, deep down I was scared to look in the mirror, scared to face the part of me that kept replaying the same cycle over and over again. That I met someone who changed everything, not because they fixed me, not because they were perfect, but because they forced me to stop running from myself. They held up a mirror and made me see that the pattern wasn't just about them, it was about me. For the first time, I started to realize it wasn't just bad luck in love. It was me carrying 17 years of anxious attachment. It was me expecting abandonment before it even happened. It was me pulling too hard, holding too tight, or pushing away the very person I wanted close. And that realization hurt. It hurt more than any breakup ever could. Because now I couldn't hide behind the blame anymore. I had to face the truth. The common denominator in all those relationships was me. But here's the flip side. That moment of pain, that's what cracked everything open. That's what changed it all. Because the moment I stopped asking what's wrong with them and started asking what's going on inside of me, that's when healing began. That's when I realized anxious attachment wasn't my identity, it was my wound, and wounds can heal. Maybe that person didn't stay forever. Maybe they weren't meant to. But they changed the dynamic, they woke me up, they made me see that love isn't about proving myself, chasing validation, or living in fear of being left. Love starts with me believing I am enough, even if no one else shows up. So what changed it all? It wasn't just meeting someone new, it was finally meeting myself. And that's the gift they gave me, the one I'll carry long after they're gone.
"17 years. That's not just time on a calendar. It's a lifetime of carrying a storm inside your chest. 17 years of anxious attachment means 17 years of looking for safety in someone else's eyes. 17 years of asking, am I enough? Will you stay? And for many, it feels like survival, because every relationship becomes a battlefield between hope and fear. But here's the truth. You survived. Millions of people have walked this path, not for months, but for decades. Anxious attachment affects nearly 1 in 4 adults, and yet here you are, still breathing, still fighting, still daring to ask these questions. That alone is proof of strength. What does 17 years do to the mind? It rewires it. It creates hypervigilance. You become an expert at scanning for rejection, anticipating abandonment before it even happens. It ties your worth to others so deeply that silence feels like punishment and distance feels like death. It teaches you to find comfort in pain, to mistake chaos for passion, and to live in cycles where love feels like drowning, but you keep diving back in, because the air you crave is at the bottom of the sea. And yes, the cost is heavy. Studies show that anxious attachment is linked to higher risks of depression, anxiety, even suicidal thoughts and behaviors. Some research suggests it accounts for more than 20% of the burden in suicidal ideation. That means this isn't just in your head. It's in your nervous system, in your history, in the way your heart learned to protect itself through fear. But here's what the research can't capture.
the resilience that forms in those who endure. People who live with anxious attachment often develop a deep intuition, an incredible sensitivity to emotion, and a capacity to love fiercely. The very thing that wounded you also shaped the strength inside you, if you learn to guide it instead of letting it guide you. Healing doesn't mean erasing those 17 years. Healing means transforming them. It means looking at the cycles and saying, I don't need to beg for love. I don't need to fear silence. I am enough, even when I stand alone. It means learning that secure attachment isn't found in someone else saving you. It's built by you, anchoring yourself so that love becomes a choice, not a lifeline. So if you've survived 17 years of anxious attachment, you already know what endurance feels like. Now imagine what thriving could look like. Imagine relationships where love doesn't trigger panic, where communicate replaces fear, where your worth isn't questioned because it was never in doubt. The storm you've carried for years was never meant to drown you. It was meant to show you how strong your lungs are. You've survived the weight of your own fear. Now it's time to breathe for yourself.
You ever notice how sometimes you find yourself begging for love without even realizing it? Not with words, but with actions, over-giving, over-explaining, bending yourself until you break just to be chosen. That's not love, that's survival. That's the little kid inside of you still thinking, if I prove myself, if I give enough, if I beg loud enough, maybe I'll finally be enough. But here's the truth, even when you get the love you're begging for, it'll never feel like enough. Why? Because the hole inside of you isn't shaped like another person, it's shaped like the absence of self-love. You can pour in all the affection, all the validation, all the attention in the world, and it will leak right through the cracks until you patch them yourself. That's why you get the love and still feel empty. That's why you question it, test it, or push it away. Because deep down your nervous system doesn't trust it. Chaos was the first language of love you ever learned, so peace feels foreign. And if you don't feel whole without them, you'll never feel whole with them. Begging for love traps you in a cycle. You crave it, you chase it, you get it, and then you doubt it. You start to wonder if it's real, if it'll last, if you'll lose it. And that fear is the very thing that drives it away. And then you're back to begging again. But here's where it shifts. When you stop asking, do they love me enough? And you start asking, am I loving myself enough to accept love without fear? That's when everything changes. Because the love that heals doesn't come from the outside in. It comes from the inside out. When you accept yourself fully, when you believe you are already enough, love from others becomes a gift, not a lifeline. It adds to you, it doesn't complete you, and that's the moment you stop begging. That's the moment enough finally feels like enough. So hear me, stop begging for the love you already deserve. Start building the love inside you that no one can take away. Because when you stand in that, the right love will never feel too little. It'll simply feel like home.